Russian forces have launched rockets on the Ukrainian capital Kyiv, hitting an apartment building on Thursday. The attacks came just after President Zelenskyy met the United Nations Secretary General in the city, and after several weeks of relative calm there. Some residents had begun returning. The UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, said visits like his won't end the war. The conflict will end, he said, when Russia decides to end it. Ukraine says the Russian offensive in the east has picked up momentum. The southern city of Kherson is controlled by Russian forces. Pro-Ukraine residents say Russia wants to wipe out their identity by holding sham local government elections and replacing Ukrainian currency with the Russian ruble.
In what would be a dramatic escalation of U.S. funding for Ukraine's war with Russia, President Joe Biden asked Congress for $33 billion to support Kyiv, and the Ukrainian president pleaded with lawmakers to give the request a swift approval. Biden's massive request includes over $20 billion for weapons, ammunition, and other military assistance, as well as $8.5 billion in direct economic assistance to the government and $3 billion in humanitarian aid. Biden's latest pledge of support came as Russia on Thursday warned the West not to test its patience, accusing the United States and its key allies of undermining European security by openly inciting Ukraine to assault Russia.
Despite the wave of international sanctions that threaten to cripple its economy, Russia has managed to double its revenues from selling fossil fuels to the EU since invading Ukraine. Benefiting from the soaring cost of fuel, even as its export volume dropped drastically, the Kremlin has been able to generate almost 62 billion euros from the sale of oil, gas and coal in just 2 months. It's a paradoxical dynamic. The harsher the sanctions, the higher the price. As the main source of gas for several nations, the Kremlin has a stranglehold on Europe's energy supply, even while governments have frantically sought to prevent Vladimir Putin using oil and gas as an economic weapon.
Following weeks of violence at Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa mosque, fresh clashes broke out between Palestinians and Israeli police today. The skirmish injured 42 people. However, none of the injuries were very serious. The unrest came on the final Friday in the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. Now, according to the Israeli police, the forces entered the compound of the mosque after rioters hurled stones and fireworks. 3 of the protesters were arrested, 2 for throwing stones and 1 for inciting the mob. Over the past 2 weeks, issuing a statement, the Israeli police said that they will continue to act decisively against rioters and outlaws for public safety and security. Over the past 2 weeks, nearly 300 Palestinians have been injured in clashes at the Al-Aqsa compound, which is Islam's 3rd holiest site.
A separatist group in Pakistan is warning of, quote, even harsher attacks against Chinese interests in the country. This after 3 Chinese teachers and their Pakistani driver were killed in a suicide bomb attack in Karachi. The bomber, who is seen in this CCTV screen grab, is said to be a woman. The first time the separatist Baloch Liberation Army has used one in an attack. She targeted teachers of the Chinese Language Institute, the Confucius Institute, outside their center in Karachi University.
because dollars will come. These were the scathing words used by Turkey's main opposition party, the CHP, in describing the Turkish president's about-face in its relations with Riyadh and the transfer of the Khashoggi case to Saudi Arabia. A day after the Saudi critic's murder in October 2018, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman told Bloomberg that Khashoggi had left the consulate after a few minutes or 1 hour. Authorities in the kingdom later issued multiple contradictory statements, including that the journalist had died during a fistfight inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. President Erdogan has in the past directly accused the Saudi government of giving the green light for Khashoggi's murder, saying it was concocted at the highest levels of the Saudi state.
An extreme heat wave has gripped India and Pakistan. With no relief in sight, South Asia is dealing with annual furnace-like temperatures. Millions are sweltering in the heat, and frequent waters and power shortages are the new normal. In fact, April is set to become one of the hottest summer months in recent years. Heatwave conditions were recorded for at least 15 days this month. The most hottest cities recorded across India are on your screens. Topping the list is Rajasthan. Meanwhile, in the west, temperatures have not dropped below 40 degrees Celsius since March.